Hi, thanks for joining us on Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, an NOCS Heart podcast that allows us to make the mental health victories of everyday Ghanaians accessible, relevant, and relatable. We hope that you enjoy listening to us and learning lots, and we hope you do come back again to learn some more. Now, today's episode. Hi, Zipporah. It is good to see you.
Hi, Ofoswa. It's great to see you as well.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Calm Hearts, Calm Minds. We started this podcast to be able to make mental health victories more relevant, more relatable, and more accessible. And I think this is one of the accessibility parts where we share the victory of journaling. And I'm really delighted to have you and to hear more about your story. Spoiler alert for anybody. I don't know the story too. So I think we'll cover it together. So yes,
That's true.
please
Okay.
tell us more about yourself. Who are you? Who is Zipporah?
All right, Ofoswa. Thank you so much for having me too on your podcast. Um, I'm kind of in a season of saying no to a lot of things, but when you asked me to come on your podcast, I couldn't help but say yes. You realize how fast I said yes, I'll be happy to come on. And so it's really a great delight to also be on here. And for our audiences, my name is Barbara Zipporah Ayiku. I am a former journalist and I'm now pivoting into public relations. And so that is what I do. And I really love journaling. I've been journaling since I was a teenager. So I hope to get more into that story as we continue.
Nice one, nice one. So please tell us, why is this particular topic of journaling as a mental health victory important to you?
Right. In the way that I see journaling as a mental health tool, is I think that life and growing up and becoming adults, we have this term now, adulting, can be very stressful or hectic, and everybody needs a release. You need somewhere, you need an escape, you need a practice that can keep you going. And for me, journaling was one of the ways that I found to be very instrumental. So that's the number one reason. And I also feel like it's very accessible in the sense that you don't have to attend an event or you don't have to wait on somebody. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on a pen and paper. So I think it's accessible and also as a form of release to us in our journey of becoming who we are.
Lovely to hear this. Can you tell us some more about your own experience with journaling? How did you start? What triggered it? What motivated it? What inspired it? Like, tell us.
Yes. So how journaling started for me, it's actually a very interesting question because I had forgotten. And going over the show notes, I realized, oh, this is how it actually started. So I was just telling you a moment ago before we recorded that it's a very reflective conversation for me. And so the earliest journaling I can remember was when I was in junior high school.
Okay.
I used to write at the back of my notebooks. You know, in school, we have the notebooks where you're supposed to write the notes. Let's say the course is religious and moral education or environmental studies. You're writing things in your notebook. But at the back of the notebook, whilst class is going on or whilst I'm at home, I'll just be writing my own things, my own experience of what going on in school, maybe if I had any experiences with my schoolmates, and especially yes, in adolescence, you know, like when you have a crush on somebody, let's say a guy, you know, yes, I know. There's always that, right? So I started writing, let's say, for in this example that I gave, if I had a crush on somebody in my school, I'll write it, let's say, at the back of my
You dare
notebook.
do that? Like, you literally
Yeah.
Left evidence at the back of your notebook.
Exactly. That leads me to the next thing. And then we started having diaries. I don't know if in your school it was a
Yeah.
thing, but the girls had diaries that had locks on them.
Little locks, the padlock, the key.
Yes, yes. It became a whole sensation where we used to buy really colorful diaries that had locks on them. Then you kind of write on the first page, this diary belongs to Barbara, do not read it, that kind of thing. And so, yes.
And now I'm going
So
way back.
that's where it started. That's where it started. So I graduated from the exercise books into the diaries that can be locked. And I guess that made me feel more free to just write whatever is going on. So it stayed with me all these years. In fact, I have a storage unit of books from, yes, some of them are at my parents' house and have some of them with me. And they're like property. I have books of just writing. And as I said, it's a release. Once I write in the book, I feel like I'm free to go live my life.
Yeah,
So that's how it started for me.
yeah, yeah. There was a saying about journaling some time back. I wanted to look it up, but it escaped me. But it's in the line of um never a secret told from a closed book. So it just meant
Okay.
that you could like pour your heart out onto the pages and just close it and then that's it. And then you don't have to worry, would they see it? Would they not? So when you said that you had
Yes.
books and they were I'm just like, wow, this is if somebody had to write an autobiography of you, they would just go for those books and then sort the things out.
Yes.
I'm so
Exactly.
excited. For those who may not know, I love journaling myself. I think my own journaling journey has gone from poetry to even songs to prayer. At a point, I found it hard to pray. So I'd literally write my prayer like and things that I found hard
Yes.
to do, like just sit down and thank God. I would say, thank you for this, thank you for that. So then I had a gratitude journal too as well. So
Okay.
I mean, it's that the whole concept of journaling, like
The whole world. Yeah.
it's like a whole new world. It's just amazing. So yes, we can't wait to hear more from you on that. I would move to my next
Mhm.
question. I won't hide that I have questions. I have questions. Prepared them for you.
That's okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so how has journaling impacted your own mental health journey? Can you share some specific ways it has helped you?
Okay. So I think the main thing um, for me, journaling is, as I said, to release things that are going on. I don't know if it's necessary to mention that. I'm sure everybody has an experience, but I think that I had some interesting experiences as a child. And these are some of the sources of mental health issues that people can have. And so perhaps when I had those diaries as a child, it was also an escape from maybe what was going on in the home that I was living in. And so how mental health has impacted me over the years is um, it's been like a source of being mindful. Or let me say it helps me to become a mindful person
Okay.
because through writing those whatever is going on, and I don't only write about negative issues, I also write positive experience. As you said, you've had a gratitude journal. I've had that as well. But it kind of brings things into perspective for
Yeah.
me. Yes. So what I've written down, let's say how my day went. I
Mm-hmm.
can see the positives and I can see the negatives. And usually by the end of writing a piece, irrespective of what kind of journaling I'm doing that day, it's almost as if there are any problems, they become like so small. And
Yeah.
I also feel like as I'm writing them down with a pen or even a pencil, I feel like I can rewrite the story, you
Oh,
know.
a nice
Yes,
point.
that's yes. So it's like if this can be written down, it can be rewritten, maybe not today, maybe the following day. So it really
Wow.
helps me to stay mindful of life's issues and
Mm.
to have a positive outlook on things.
I I love that. Like if it can be written down today, it can be rewritten. You know how sometimes you
Yes,
make a big mistake and you're really frustrated. Well, maybe I'm talking for myself now.
yes,
Be frustrated and write about it and literally assess like what on earth went wrong and what on earth did I do wrong. At the end of it, things just become clearer. They're like, okay, next time, such
absolutely.
a situation, just keep quiet. Or next time, in such a situation, actually speak up. Don't be afraid of your own emotions. So I like the way the two of us have been smiling knowingly so far.
You know, it's like
So
a knowing.
relate.
We know what we are talking about.
We just know.
Yes.
And I really hope that anyone listening would explore the world of journaling with us. I mean, it's not a straight, I think the other thing is that some people feel it's a straight jacket. Like you have to write about Dear Diary. Like it has to start that way.
No, not at
Or it
all.
has to be aspirational, what I want to be in 10 years, you know. But it's so fluid. It can be that and so much more and so many things. So I'm
Mhm.
really, really happy with what you said. Um
Yes.
eh, the release bit is, I think I'll come to that again. It really is a lot.
Sure.
Um, do you have a particular journaling routine? And how did you develop it? And what benefits have you had from maintaining it? And we'll double click on that
Okay.
maintenance thing in a bit. But yeah, just tell us, do you have a routine?
Yes.
How did you build it and how are you maintaining it?
Okay. So I must say that I've been a pretty chaotic journaler. Yes.
I
I'm
love
owning
that
that.
word.
I've been a
Honesty.
chaotic journaler. Yes. Yeah, so I have different journals, and usually I distinguish them by sizes. So I can have a small one that, let's say, fits into my handbag. It is
Okay.
my life. So I have journals that I can have on me everywhere I'm going, and I
Ah,
have journals the size of maybe an A4 sheet, that maybe that stays at home. And sometimes those journals that I carry with me to work or to town, I have to transfer them into the main book at
mm,
the end of the day or maybe over the weekend, right?
wow.
So yes,
I thought I journaled, but your own is on a different level, Zipper.
I tell you, in fact, my friends know me to be someone who maybe if we're having a misunderstanding, I'm like, don't worry, I'm gonna write this in my journal. But let me get back to about the routine. Yes, so with regards to routine, I'm a bit chaotic with it. I'm one of those people who has a very terrible handwriting. Sometimes I cannot read what I've written days later.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for making me feel so normal. I also
Yes.
I think you can see from my background that was written in capital letters. Like capital letters is the only way I and everyone
Okay.
can see. When I write it, all it's if it takes like 2, 3 weeks, I may not be able to even read what I've written if I don't remember
Okay. I feel seen.
everything. So, oh, it's nice. It's nice to feel to meet one. Like,
Yes. So please, if you're listening, you don't have to have perfect handwriting. I had friends those days with the diaries who had like impeccable handwriting. When you see their diaries, like wow. But that's my experience. Very chaotic and terrible handwriting. But over the years, I have worked on those things. I think at a point a few years ago, I actually bought the handwriting book. You know, there's my copy book that kids write with
wow.
because I wanted to enjoy journaling, right?
Wow. Okay.
Yes. And at a point, I also learned from fashion school that you can warm up before writing because we need to do illustration. I'm sure things you draw, you
Mm-hmm.
do warm up maybe by doodling.
Yeah.
So a lot of my journals also have a lot of doodling in it. So before I write, I doodle a bit.
Ooh.
It's like I'm telling you, it's like a spiritual experience. It's like I'm
Yes.
preparing myself maybe I'm listening to some jazz music, you know? Yes.
We're treating it like an extreme sport. I am, I am intrigued, like so intrigued.
Yes, yes. So over the years, I've been able to now, and now I do have some kind of routine to it and a structure. I have morning papers that I do
Okay.
first thing when I wake up. Yes, within the next 15 to 20 minutes. I just write whatever is on my mind and I try to get like a full page.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a judgment-free zone. I don't care what I write there. I'm just getting it out. And it really helps. So that's first thing in the day. And then I journal a lot about my day. So I usually have the time slots from let's say 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I want
Okay.
to see it written. I may have a calendar, on my email, but I like to see it written. That's
Oh,
just me.
wow.
Yes, I write a lot, you know.
Wow.
So as you said, someone might be thinking you have to write something aspirational. Most of my journals are like everyday activities, what's gonna happen next week,
Mm-hmm.
what happened yesterday. It's nothing out of the ordinary, but
Mm-hmm.
it takes so much of my mind and I just feel lighter. So yeah.
I like the way journaling for you is like a proper habit. I now the way you described it, I cannot imagine you with a life without journaling. Like I feel
Yes.
if you need to be tortured, you should be put in a room without pens and without screens,
Oh
without
no.
they should make sure they don't even leave a stone on the ground because you probably take that and write. But journaling is also a discipline for so many. It takes a lot of effort. What has been that one thing that helped you be consistent? That's my first question. And then what has been that other thing that made you relax about not being consistent? There are sometimes days you go off
Okay.
or you didn't do the morning one or you didn't do the afternoon one or you left your book at home and then suddenly like I don't want to write anymore. So health has helped you be consistent because I think people get frustrated
Okay.
at the start and then they just don't continue. And what has
Yes.
helped you like be kind to yourself when you don't follow a routine
Yes.
you desire?
Right. So with consistency, I think very early on,
Hmm.
I got rid of, people's definitions of what a journaling life is supposed to be about. Yes. I think I think that that's something that I've been very good about. And maybe I had the reverse problem, and to be honest. Maybe I was journaling too much.
Okay.
Yes. So I've had days that I've gone off journaling for weeks. And you feel that, guilt that
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to be journaling. And especially at a point in time, I was part of a journaling group where they gave us prompts to write and submit if you wanted to. But if
Okay.
maybe I was busy with work or it was just a hectic time, and you can feel that guilt that,
Yeah.
oh, I said I was going to do this journaling and I haven't done it. So for me, I got rid of that. And everyone listening should also get rid of that guilt. Of
Mm.
course, you should encourage yourself to do what you said you're going to do for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think what also inspires me to write more is having exciting journals. So I actually go out of my way to look for nice journals, colorful journals.
Yes.
Yes. It doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg, but I feel like if you can spend on anything else that you like, if you love journaling or if you want journaling to be um, a resource to you, you should invest in it. So that's one thing that's helped me be consistent. I hope I've answered those two questions.
You've talked about the guilt and you've
Okay.
consistency. You reminded me of something that people say that if you want to drink more water, get an attractive water bottle. Like get a water
Yeah.
bottle or a cup that you really want to hold. You really want to not just bottle of water there, I must drink, but something. And it's the same with journaling. And I can so relate. I think I went on a hiatus on journaling. I don't know for how long. The last time I remembered well, to be fair, I had been on and off, but I'd been quite consistent in secondary school as well. I think it was such a
Okay.
lifeline for me. Taught me how to just express. And it's like when you're done, you leave with some level of calm. Even if you're still angry, or even if you're still excited, even if you're still, there's this sort of
Yes.
calm that comes over you from just, I said, the release, just for want of better, the regurgitation of everything just left on the pages. It's
Yes.
easy. So it's been part of me, but for quite a bit, I hadn't journaled. And I remember one of my birthdays, my husband actually bought me a book and pens, and it just unlocked everything.
Okay.
And so anyone who wants to start journaling, I would advise them, as you said, get them something that appeals. So I went from books with sequence, like you could go
Okay.
all the way, and one had BU, so go all the way. I had one that had fair, colorful
Oh,
books. I even had books where I could draw on the front. And my recent, I
nice.
used to really, really love books that had African prints on it,
Yes.
especially the
Yes.
one that had the
That's
soft
well.
foam on the other side, like you would kill me any day.
Okay.
Yes, now I have someone who prints single prints on books. So I would put
Mhm.
my my vision board
Yes.
on a book. Yes.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yes.
Yes.
So I really, really connect with you on get something that you like
Yes.
using.
Yes.
Get a pen you love. Don't let a pen give you stress.
Exactly.
I really, 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 really love that. Um, you mentioned a bit about helping you deal with hard times or with stuff that was upsetting you. Can you give us like a real example?
Right.
Back in how did you journal? How did it help in the end? I think people who have journaled have a lot of stories. I have a few as well. Some I wrote
Yes.
that day. So yeah, just a few examples of when it comes to the struggle, that mental struggle. And I like to remind people that mental struggle is not always bad. Sometimes you're so excited, it's just too much for you. But when you have
Mhm.
that, yeah, tell us. And a real example
Yes.
can relate to.
Yes, I'm totally happy to do that, especially as this platform is supposed to be a place where people can actually relate to the stories that we are sharing. So at a point in time, I was dealing with father and mother wound issues.
Mm.
Right. Yeah, yes. And I'm an eldest daughter as well in my family. I mean, I
I'm so
come from a
sorry.
family. Okay.
There's
Oh
a lot
no.
of pressure on firstborns. Like, I so respect. You have no idea. I'm not a firstborn.
Yes, yes. Oh God. Okay.
I'm
Good for
just,
you.
I'm actually, I was not. A lot of pressure.
Okay, so I'm an eldest daughter
Huh?
in a family of five. So I have three younger brothers. In
Mhm.
the family of four, sorry, three younger brothers. I'm the firstborn. And if anybody has any idea of what that means in a typical African country, not to be biased, but I think in Africa that has its own meaning.
Yeah.
People in the Western world also have their own expressions of what being a first order, so as first born girl means, so an eldest daughter means. And so I was exploring father and mother wound issues, and it became very draining for me because I used to think that, so I thought then that I was a daddy's girl,
Mm-hmm.
because my dad does love me and I love him too. But growing up and learning about family systems and mental health, I realized that yes, I do come from a family where I'm loved, but that does not mean that I did not also have other issues, or issues in my family growing up. And so that was a season, I must say, a number of years where there were even moments of not speaking to either of my parents at the time. It wasn't together, you know. And that really felt, first of all, I experienced a lot of guilt being a firstborn. I'm the one supposed to sort of hold the family together.
Younger ones
I
are
was not, you know,
what do you want them
they're
to
looking
do?
up after,
They're looking up to you. I remember that.
yes, yeah. So if I, as an eldest daughter, is not speaking to my dad at a point and my mom at a point, what are my younger siblings supposed to do? And that's just like 1% of the issues that were going on. So journaling um, was really a helpful tool. I would say at that point, that was my only form of therapy. I went on to actually have a professional therapy with a mental health expert. But at that point, I would say journaling and just listening to therapists, maybe on the YouTube videos, was my only form of therapy.
Wow.
And at that point, yes, yes. And at that point, I did not really feel comfortable talking about those issues out loud. I was not ready for that.
Yeah.
And so I had a whole books of just going all the way back to what I remember from childhood being maybe the first expression of the issues that I was dealing with till today, and then how to approach them. And through my research,
Yo, let me put it, you subjected yourself to that rigorous, like going back into the past and unpacking. Okay, so for those
yes,
who
you
may
get
not
it.
be able to relate,
You get it.
it's just a bit of a I I know there are a lot of things that have to do with childhood traumas, different
Exactly.
experiences, even sometimes from previous. I mean, for me, I've worked in a couple of places, so even from previous jobs, when you pause to go back, it's a lot because you're reminded of things that you had naturally forgotten and probably didn't want to remember. You are reminded of the intense joys that you are taking for granted, and perhaps feel suddenly feel very bad to have forgotten. So it's a lot of, should I say, it's a big emotional journey. Just to explain,
It is.
I can understand from Zipporah saying it's a big emotional journey. We have a lot of questions. We'll go on a break very soon, and we'll come back
Okay.
to unpack this even more. But wow. Wow, 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 wow. You can tell us a bit more about it. Still listening. I know I can't,
Right.
because I had to pause a bit because it's not very relatable when you tell people that you've gone back and you are literally unpacking and looking at your past and journaling. So it's to
Absolutely.
make the point that it's a big deal. Wow.
It is a big deal. And I must say that I did not know what I was getting into when I started. So it was a surprise, but I would say that I did have time then because it was around the same time that I had decided to go on a career break.
Mm, mm.
So, yes. And so I had time. I really had time. It was so therapy, self-therapy, journaling was like the main thing I was doing for a number of months, I would say. Because I
Wow.
really wanted to get to the bottom of the issues that I was having with my parents,
Mm.
because I grew up in someone would say it's normal, a normal Ghanaian
Well,
Christian family, you know.
let
If
me put
one
it,
of my
normal Ghanaian Christian family. You were the only girl and the first. I am an only girl. So
okay,
like, bless your heart on that one. I can relate. Not being the firstborn was a bigger relief for me. So I
mm,
normal Ghanaian Christian home, only girl. First.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, you can imagine the expectations. Yeah, so I really wanted to get to the bottom of it because, for instance, like if I told one of my aunties that, I'm not talking to my parents, like you're so ungrateful. Like,
Yeah.
what? Your parents gave you the best, but I still had issues and my issues were valid.
Yeah.
So I really had to go back and unpack. So journaling was the main thing. I was able to get to the bottom of it and just learning, self-learning on YouTube. I was at the point I was following a lot of therapists. That is not professional advice. They always give that disclaimer. And I was owning that as well. But I learned a lot about childhood traumas, about family systems, about differentiation. And yes, so people should definitely pick up journaling.
Congrats to you. And
Thank you.
in our Ghanaian society, therapy is a little hard to speak about. I'm really happy that you have opened up about it. And I think that's one of the aims of Calm Hearts, Calm Minds is to get people access to the options that are available. There's still a lot of work in the background that we're doing, but we can't absolutely wait to share this with the world. But yeah, lovely. So we'll go on a break, come back and unpack the world of journaling with this avid next level high sports journalist Sephora.
Yes.
Look forward
Okay.
to seeing you soon.
Okay.
No, it's great. We're back from the break. Thank you so much, Sephora, for joining us and telling us about this whole journaling bit. I love also what you said. I forgot to say earlier about taking away that guilt, because sometimes in our quest to get into journaling, we tend to join groups or tend to find out these like strict routines. When you wake up in the morning, you must write about the day before. And I don't want to write about the day before. I just want to write about now. I want to write about tomorrow, you know. So that comes with its own guilt, especially when you really want to start journaling, or you found that people are benefiting from it, you want to try it out too, and it's like, I'm not being good enough at this, so I'm not getting the best out of it. It really is a personal, should I say, a personal sport. It doesn't have
Yes.
many rules. It's just like we keep writing us, and when we
Yes.
I'm really happy with what you have told us today. I also love the fact that you could write about, fill a page. When I personally struggled with prayer, and especially with just being grateful. Like I knew how to ask.
Yes.
That I knew. But being grateful was journaling that brought me to that place. So I would fill a page. At a point, I could fill one page with Thanksgiving, another page with just worship, just to get into the habit, because I just thought I only got that out of a church service. Afterwards, I shortened it. And from there,
Right.
lots of my sketching in its current form was born. Because that's how I'd write, I'd think about something and then I would sketch as well. So I love what you said about doodling. And
Right.
personally, for letting things out, journaling has personally helped me. So there were times when if I struggled with someone, like I had a proper personality clash, like I would,
Mm-hmm.
I had this habit, when it had just gone too far for me, I would say maybe I would Google, what does the Bible say about maybe anger or frustration or jealousy? And I would write
Right.
every verse, like I will copy it till my hand hurts, like copy till I felt.
Oh no.
Then I would do the role model, which is GRO. What goal do I want? So I don't want to be this angry with this person. What's my
Mm.
reality? This person's a pain in the neck. They like saying things that they don't like. I'm also impatient. Blah 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 blah. Then what are my options? Okay, I can be nice. I can hit them in the head with a bucket. You know, it's in a book. No one come and arrest me for it.
Yes.
Well, unless
Yes.
manage with the bucket in their head too. That one is different. But I could be myself, no judgment, and just write it all out and then end with the W will. So it's
Yes.
come from prayer to trying to resolve an issue. There were times too when I would be very upset with someone, say
Yes.
a family member, boss, a colleague, and I realized I am so upset. I cannot speak with you about it. I cannot. So I will pick up my journal and I will say, Dear Zipporah, I hate what you just did And I hate myself for hating you and literally write out all my emotions, knowing him. And from there, I'm like, huh. And then I'll go and say, you probably know that I
Yes.
and I'll come so calmly, but I'm literally like to vent
We had the fight in the journal. That's so cool.
it. I don't know. I think we can have a whole like journaling as a whole podcast
Week.
on weeks or definitely
Yes. Oh, a 7 week recording.
so
Yes.
on how
Yes. I've definitely had those moments too. My journal has definitely been that book that knows people have been angry at and, you know, things that I cannot say out loud.
I mean,
So,
if
yes.
if our books were people like, why don't you complain about
Is she okay?
it? Like, were you not the one trying to do something weird because you were that? Then like, oh, I'm so happy. Like what? And I like the thing that there's no judgment in journaling. The
Exactly.
book will not speak back
Exactly.
to you. Like the screen will not
Yes.
tell you don't write it this way. You can just let it out and then gather yourself to be the person you want to be. Because that venting, that moment where you will have extremely happy, you just feel the tears, but you need to express it for how grateful you are. That is
Yes.
also part of you. And it's nice to have a
Yes.
place to go to just express it. So tell me, what have been your challenges when it comes to journaling? It's not all roses and cream. What have been, yeah, those challenges that you've had, and how did you get over them?
Okay.
And what did they teach you as well?
Okay. Right. So, not to be funny, but one of my main challenges with journaling or my journals at the moment is protecting it, as in, no one can have access to it. So, I'm always preoccupied with
Mm,
making sure that my journals are not accessible. Let me
mm,
tell you a quick story. Earlier this year, I was out of the country for 2 weeks,
okay.
but it ended up the the trip ended up being extended
Mm-hmm.
for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And so, yes, so one of my cousins was going to take over my flat. And the first thing I could think about protecting was I had to get one of my brothers to go and take all my journals out of the apartment so that someone cannot even think about seeing it. And I actually realized that that's a peculiar thing to me. I'm not going off script, but I'll come back to the question that you asked. But you don't have to be that overprotective about your journal,
Yeah.
because I have friends who don't mind
Mhm.
if people read their journals. It was a shock, but I guess everyone is different.
Everyone is
I had
different.
a friend who actually enjoyed people. She has that level of vulnerability. I'm
Oh,
sure not every stranger, but I'm sure she has friends that. But for me, it's a no go area. It's between me and me. And
mhm,
sometimes I wonder, like, what at all will go
mhm.
wrong if someone found out? But nothing. It's just my thing. I want to own it, you
Mm,
know? So I don't know. If I have children, maybe I might will it to them. But for now, it's just so I don't know if that's a challenge, but that's one thing I'm always preoccupied with. And
mhm,
then, of course, obviously, a moment ago we mentioned about time and commitment.
mhm.
I've had my moments of going off journaling sometimes, and just out of not being disciplined in that moment. So it is a discipline. You do have to commit time to it. But yeah, those are the two things I can think of at the moment with regards to challenges with journaling. If you think I'm missing something, maybe you can draw my attention to, for example,
It's
what do you consider to be a challenge?
it's perfect because I remember being in a group that encouraged journaling, and there's a ladies group, and there was a particular lady. She's like, "What is the point of writing something so that someone sees it later?" So I remember her a frustration with being asked to journal. And she also just didn't get like, pour your heart out where? Why don't you just think about it and move on? So I can really understand the thing about that privacy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were one of the, I tried doing the code thing. You know, people could replace letters and numbers and write, and I could never, like, I don't know, maybe I did it successfully once and I couldn't keep up. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that privacy thing is also real. I I I understand the privacy bit, honestly speaking, because sometimes in
Okay.
pouring out your heart, you really don't know who will read and how they'll interpret it. And you know, if you are venting or if you're just being completely honest, there's a way you want to package that same honesty in a way that's palatable for others. Sometimes your journal is
Yeah.
not that palatable place. So I can relate. I can so relate to the concern. And I'm glad you have brothers who understood you enough, like you don't have to go all the way and stuff.
No, yes, you have to do that. Yes, and that's someone I know he won't be bothered to go through a journal. So, like,
Yeah,
you go for it and keep it in your place until I'm back.
it's nice. It's nice. That the challenges for journaling I know are quite many. Obviously, there's a discipline of it. There is the guilt that you mentioned that sometimes people
Yes,
burden themselves with. There is also not even knowing what to write. And I loved
100%.
that you talked about it having really no rules. The rules are yours to make and break and make them again if you want.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you talked. I think for me, my biggest challenge with journaling is the discipline of it. And for me, because it's been so helpful, um, when I stop journaling for a while, I kind of feel like a little disconnected.
Disoriented, yes, yes.
And it really helps ground me. And there was some training that I had at work sometime, and we were speaking to, can't remember, but he also had something on neuroscience and mentioned that
Okay,
writing engages writing in a journal engages
yeah.
your thoughts and your actions because you are thinking and you're writing. So you're literally using your full brain
Mm,
when you are literally like thinking about something
journaling, yeah,
or sketching or something. I found that so insightful. So yeah. I
very
don't know.
true.
I don't know how to describe journaling as a big deal to someone who doesn't know the joy of it. And it may not be for everyone, to be honest, but for those who are able to benefit from it, that release, that calm, that little corner of the world that you can just gather yourself is so it's also so important. So thank you so much for sharing, Zipporah. Totally excited. I will go on to the next question that you have mentioned it in some way. Many people struggle with knowing what to write. Um, how do you decide on what to focus on? Aside, let's say, the routines which you have built for yourself, what do you, at any point in time, decide what to
Right,
focus on? And do you use any techniques or prompts to guide your writing?
right. Okay, so um, I have been a very free hand writing type of, I don't think I'm using the right term. What I do at the moment is I have journals and I dedicate different aspects of it to
Mm,
different areas of my life.
okay.
Yes, and I also have different journals for different purposes. As I said, I started as a very chaotic journaler. So in one book, I could have things about how my day is going, and I could have things about my plans for the next 10 years on the next page. And that was very chaotic. And I think that was also a reflection of my state of mind or state of affairs with me then. But now I have different journals. So that's usually a good guide. If I pick this pink journal today,
Mhm,
I know that I'm going to write about things I'm doing the next 5 years. That's more aspirational, goal setting kind
mhm,
of journal. Then I have my journal for the morning pages. So
mm,
that's strictly what I'm thinking about when I woke up that day and my plans for the rest of the day. And then things that come up that I don't want to forget, I write those in those kinds of journals. As far as prompts are concerned, I don't usually use prompts. I think my main issue is over journaling, honestly. I journal too much. So, but yes, I've had moments when it's like I have the book, I have the page, but I'm blank. What to write, you know? And that's one thing I actually want to draw our attention to, that we also need to get rid of that perfection. If you want to write, there's definitely like a word in your mind or an alphabet. Once you put it down, for me, usually, even if I write something wrong, I can cancel it out and then correct it later on. And also in my work as a communications person, that happens a lot. Let's say I'm trying to write a copy for the marketing piece or communications piece. And sometimes I feel like I have writer's block. But I did learn from one thought leader that there's nothing like writer's block. And it's more of you're not willing to write in quotes, you're not willing to write rubbish first. So you should be happy to write yeah, you should be happy to write that. So once I learned that skill, I think I generally got rid of writer's block. And so whatever comes to mind right now, I just write it. And then later on, I can go over it and correct it. But yeah, prompts were helpful at a point. And so if prompts works for people, they should totally do that. I've also searched up people's journals on YouTube and on Google, and that helps me get ideas on how to design my journal. So people can be very colorful. As you said, you draw in your journal. I'm not good at drawing, but I try and incorporate a lot of colorful highlighters and color pencils. And now I'm thinking of adding things like book, you know? So that's how it's going with that.
Nice, nice, nice. I like what you said about prompts, that not everybody would need them. I think at a point when I joined a group where they were using, like, I don't want to write about this today, but I hadn't recognized at that time that prompts at that time were not just my thing. And there are times when they would say, write this. I'm like, oh, I've never thought of it, about that before.
Exactly.
So yeah, it really is whatever will get you. I love what you said about the letter. Like if it's Z, 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 A, like, right. And then the rubbish first thing just got to me. I have an aunt who was an English teacher, and she said a lot. She said it was a friend of hers who said, but I remember her saying it a lot, that it's easier to edit than create. So just create and then edit later, because that's the easier bit. So just write it down. Don't try and create and edit at the same time. And that's when you get the block. You really want perfection. But if you can create and just put, and you can always cancel it. You can always I remember a time I wrote something and I just wrote what I said, and I'm like, now I've changed my mind. Then I wrote something else. So I cannot, sorry, I just remembered.
Yes, I'm telling you,
I literally wrote, now I've
sometimes
changed my mind. I continue.
the sort of things that journals are going through,
Oh, the sort of things that
if they could talk,
if they
if
could talk.
journals could talk.
So it's and it comes back
Yes,
to letting go of that guilt, because if prompts are your things, right, if not being able to write perfectly is becoming a blocker, just right, if you need a prompt
yes,
for it right now, it's quite easy to find. You can just Google prompts for journaling about being happy, or prompts for journaling about being sad, and sometimes it would even make it even more obvious to you that maybe this is something I need to speak with a therapist about, or this is something that when I did, I felt much better. So
yes,
I'm really, really happy
yes,
that you mentioned this. Um,
yeah,
you did mention about going back and going back to the motherhood, father wounds, and really just unpacking that. But I want to know, what point did you get like a significant insight that journaling brought you, and how it was going to contribute to your mental well-being? You've talked generally, I mean, you talked about school, you've talked about, but is there any point in your life that you can go and go like, at that point, I knew that I had done the right thing journaling, and this was it for me, and this is how it's gonna, and this is how it may help me in the future. And when you look back, it has helped you. So yeah, if you could.
Right, right.
Add.
Yes, I think that would be a combination experience of following the teachings of a therapist who specializes in family issues and self-differentiation. And he made a valid point. I think the person's name was Jerry Weiss. He's an American therapist. I think he made a very important point to me. That was in a turnaround point where he said that if anybody was dealing with family issues, mother wound or father wound, they did not have to confront the family member or the person involved during their own healing. Because once you confront the family member during your healing, you've suddenly taken on their healing and not yours. And then he did mention that so you can journal about how you're feeling instead of maybe, mom, you did not do this when I was a teenager. He did mention that if you journal about this, and I was like, well, this is what I've been doing the whole time. And so that was like a 360 moment for me that, okay, this is actually, if a therapist that I'm listening to solve this mother wound, father wound has mentioned journaling over here, I think I'm doing the right thing. And I think also in a Ghanaian family setup, you know, that we have this thing of not talking back at parents.
Yeah.
And at a point, I really did not care. I just wanted to get my feelings out. But journaling allowed me to go through my healing without disrespecting my
Mm.
parents.
Mm.
And today I can say that our relationship is not perfect, but they can never point out a moment where I came and had like an outburst.
Mm.
But trust me, I had those outbursts alone. I had it in my journal, you know, and maybe it's not necessary to go have that outburst, because the point of this whole podcast is also that we're dealing with mental health issues. For all you know, my mom and dad had their own mental health problems they were dealing with.
Mm.
Everyone deals with them.
Yeah.
So yes, so I think that also created some sanity
Mm.
around having issue. I think I listened to one of your previous recordings or your previous podcasts,
Yeah.
and the speaker mentioned that someone has a mental health illness as if they're not able to deal with the everyday stresses of life.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody has stresses. In fact, if we did not have an outlet, I'm sure we'd just be walking on the street, shouting at each other, fighting each other. So that's what journaling did for me. I was able to still maintain a respectful relationship with my parents and still dealt with the issues at hand.
Yeah. This
Yes.
rings true for me. I think the exception is people who did not struggle with their parents growing up. I think it's like part of the everyday stresses of life. And there was a time I read, I can't remember, some book or something I read out loud in front of my mom, and said that there's a lady who said that if what was the phrase? One of the moments where you're very grateful to have dogs is when you have teenagers. And I found it like, I was like, and my mom was like,
Okay.
true. And I was like, what? like, so true. And she said it, so she's not animated like me. It's like so true. And I was like,
Yeah.
that was just like this like
Okay.
moment in my life where I'm like, I wasn't the only one who was struggling, you know. I'm an only girl. I look and act like my mom, aside the fact that I am talkative guy to get from my dad. So we were so similar in so many ways. And then we had the regular normal clashes. And some people have it
Mhm.
harder than others. But as you said, even if it is not a mental health condition, but everybody struggles from some mental health strain or the other, because
Exactly.
stress is stress, you know. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, sometimes it's not the best to just go out and let it out on people. Sometimes just go to the book or go to wherever it is you like and just let it out there. And I have I mentioned I've if all my bosses were to look for the journal entries that had their name on it, I don't think our relationship would ever be the same again.
No, you'd have
Hi.
been
Yeah.
earmarked as
I'm telling
yes.
you, we try DM
Blacklisted.
we try
Do not employ this lady.
to make the relationship now you got me to make the relationships work the best way we can. And I like that it's
Yes.
not always necessary to just go and let's if it feels like a good idea, definitely. But sometimes when you let the journaling be like, wait, stop, relax, let's out here. I mean, people have had a good friend where they've just gone to let it out and then they are more composed. I think journaling does that.
Yes.
And I love which brings us right back to the next question on how people can deal with what you feel. And a disclaimer, I don't think any of us are experts here. We're just exposed to different issues. But how do you feel
Yes.
journaling can help with stuff like anxiety, depression, OCD, anything that you personally feel could help? What do you think it is,
Right.
and how do you think it helps?
Right. Okay. So, as Ofusu has mentioned, we are not professionals, and anxiety, depression, OCD, these are just a handful of mental health problems, and they are serious issues.
Mm,
I've considered any of these four at a point in my life that am I having any of these? Anxiety, definitely anxiety, but OCD, yes. Depression, I've considered, but I do not have diagnosis.
mm,
But so what I think is see journaling as maybe step one to explore how you're feeling, what
mm,
you may be thinking or going through.
mm.
Okay. And also as a self-therapy practice.
Self-therapy.
But
I love that word.
yes, as a
Self-therapy.
self-therapy, yes, because especially as we mentioned earlier on, therapy is not always accessible, especially if you live somewhere like in Ghana, it can be expensive. And so the fact that you're going through stresses of life doesn't mean that take your salary and go pay for therapy and everything will be sorted out. Actually, that doesn't always work out that way. People go through therapy for sometimes weeks and months
Mm.
before they start feeling better. It is important. I'm actually considering becoming a therapist in the future. Yes, yes, I think it is important, but self-therapy can be a very cost-effective way, and journaling can be one way. I do want to also mention that not everybody is good with or comfortable with writing. I think maybe both of us have this in common, especially as I'm a journalist as well. I really like writing. But on days that I felt lazy or not inspired, I also started doing voice notes to myself.
So
You
glad
know?
you mentioned this.
Yes. I'm sure you have experience with voice notes as well. You just use the yes, and I think that also has its own different effect, like hearing your own voice
Mhm.
speaking back to you about issues of life. So it's like being a best friend to yourself, really. That's what journaling is about. It's between you, and you're creating an escape because when everything is up here in your mind, you can feel like really blurred and clouded, and you feel like there's no way through these issues. But
Mhm.
once you get it out, either through a voice note, in a book, on your phone, if you're texting it to yourself. In fact, I get worried that the network I use would be like, this lady texts herself too much. I text myself on the messaging app. I text myself on WhatsApp. I text myself on the email. And I had to, erase. No shame.
Yeah.
Yes, it is my number. I'm texting myself because I don't want to forget this or that. I email myself so many times in a day. Why
Makes
not? You
I
know?
would I love that you've veered us into like the tech side and options of journaling. I don't want us to lose it. So what I'll do is I will go on another break and come back and just
Right.
explore that a little more in people having options. I think this podcast really is about options and knowing how it has helped. If there's anything you've learned from Zipporah, I've learned from me, how journaling has helped us. And for those who don't like writing, as Zipporah said, we have something for you right after the break. So we'll talk soon, Zipporah. Can't wait.
Okay. All right.
So right before the break, and in case you're lost, this is Calm Hearts, Calm Minds. We try to make mental health victories like journaling relatable, relevant, and more accessible to people. And I love that Zipporah is helping us today. She definitely is an avid journaler. If there's an expression like that, like an extreme sport.
A professional
I'm really,
journaler.
I'm really, really excited, honestly, to be speaking with her. Um, it's nice to meet your superiors. Let me put it that way. I thought I'm like,
Please.
it's like my thing. I'm a pro. I'm
Come
relaxed.
on.
I'm chill. Then I'm here. Like, no,
I
yo,
have books.
I'm glad I did not know before this because I may have retweaked all the questions and they come with it. Yeah, I'm really happy, really happy. But
Okay.
before the break, you
Same
mentioned
here.
how you would text yourself, how you would send yourself a voice note. And I'm still so excited that you mentioned that because that's very helpful for those who don't like writing or those who don't want their writing. I just want to take a picture of their writing. I mean, yeah, we do have a few fears from time, and sometimes they are valid. You know your environment best
Yes.
and you know what upsets you the most. So it may not even be happening, but you know that you'd be really upset if it happened like that. So tell us a bit more. Let's just unpack this a bit, the whole technology of journaling
Right.
outside taking a pen and paper and writing or typing somewhere. What are some of the options for you?
Okay. So, in terms of technology and journaling, I think it came up for me, especially when I'm in a work environment or if I happen to be without a pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
It was very inconspicuous to just be on my phone as if I'm texting anybody, but really I'm journaling. And a way to save it is
Mm-hmm.
to send myself an email. So sometimes I go to cafes with books, but you do get looks because you don't go into a cafe and see a grown up woman with a book, writing and, you know, colored pencils. I don't mind, but it's not the everyday side. So I try to be mindful about, where I am as well. And so that can come in handy for someone who's not really thrilled about writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Voice notes. I'm sure I have done videos as well, but I always end up getting rid of them. Maybe just let's say me sitting here talking,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe that was once or twice for
Okay.
a particular issue. But totally embrace whatever you think might work for you. These are the options that I've thought about.
Yeah.
And I think, in a sense, that could also be maybe safer depending on the environment. I lived alone for a very long time, so had no concerns about someone bumping into my journal. But you may live with your family, you may live with a partner, and if you have concerns about that, my partner knows not to touch my journal.
Mm.
you know,
Rules,
sometimes
boundary clear.
rules. Sometimes I would come and see his handwriting and maybe on the first page of my journal, so hello, this is me. I'm not reading. I just saw your journal and this exactly.
I don't know if I should laugh out loud or my skin should crawl. Like, I'm not quite sure how to react to
Honestly,
that.
honestly, but it's okay. He's someone I'm close to.
I
I
know.
mind if you actually read them, but it's become like a joke now. Like
It's the
it's a
temptation
no-go
that I just
area.
cannot. The temptation that, like, I am not reading, I'm here. Like, ah.
Yes, yes. It's so funny when I come across it days later. I'm like, okay, so maybe he saw my book and decided that I'm gonna scare this lady because he knows. So, but he doesn't have my email password, and I have journals in my email. I've
Mm,
written things in my email, and maybe it's in draft, or I've just sent them to myself. And usually I did that if a pen and paper were not, because I do prefer writing.
yeah.
As you said, writing down something on pen and paper is, it's almost like a spiritual practice. You really connect, your brain and what you're actually going to do. So,
Mm.
yeah.
I love that. I have my own experience with like self-journals. Remember before, and I think WhatsApp recently allowed you to to message yourself. But before
So,
that
yeah.
happened, what would do is that I would create a group with someone and then remove them from the group. So I was the only person in the
Oh,
group, and I would just dump things there. And
perfect. Yeah.
sometimes you really, really want to just not write it down. You want to let it out verbally. So a personal voice note that is going to you is helpful. You can choose to delete it later on. I barely actually go back to read what I've written in
Okay.
journals. Also maybe because at a point I wasn't focusing on some of the things that I had to go back and read. It was just a snapshot of the moment, or like the prayers that I was talking about. I wouldn't go back and read that because it had been said. But
Mm-hmm.
I get now that bit. So yeah, and I personally love the thing about you could be in a place, if we're in the middle of a meeting and you took out a book and started writing and people know you don't do that, it's a bit weird. But just to take out your phone, if you're taking notes, it can be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think
Yes.
that's really great. I remember there was recently I had a very interesting conversation with a superior at work, and I think it shook me up a bit. It wasn't a bad conversation, it just shook me up a bit. And I remember sitting down and taking out a device and writing. And then there were people around me, and I'm like, I really, in this moment, I knew I needed to write to kind of move on with my day because something
Right.
said which I wasn't even ready to process. But I needed to like dump it somewhere.
Be able to come back to it,
Yes, come
right?
back to it later. I actually never did, but in that moment, I really
Uh,
needed to lay it somewhere.
yes.
And I
Yes.
didn't want to talk to anybody about it. So I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. And I wanted to so if I knew at that time, I would have stopped writing and I'll switch to my phone. Honestly, it never really occurred to me how
Right.
inconspicuous journaling on your phone could look like.
Yeah.
Could even be like, yeah, telling someone where's the sales number. You're literally saying
Exactly.
something else. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
exactly.
you so much for reminding us about the tech side of journaling and how we can take advantage of that too. Especially, I know it can be hard to write or express yourself writing, but especially when I know someone who, when she prayed and it was really serious, and she learned from her mom, who learned it from her grandmom, she would take a chair, put in the room, and then also take a chair and say, God, sit down. Like, let me talk to you.
Okay.
Literally,
Okay. You've
that
been
chair
invited for a
symbolized
meeting.
there. Now I can tell. So I can imagine someone just picking a phone and now you don't have to
Yeah.
hold the button down, you just lift it up and say, imagine even a friend, a trusted friend you could talk to and say, hi, Zipporah, you're not here, but this is what I would say. And yeah, I think journaling, as you said, is good release, a good outlet, a good way to deal with stuff. So my last question, and my favorite question perhaps on this podcast is, There has been so much that we've said today, and thank you. You've done more than an hour. That's so much that we've said today. If there was one thing you would want the listeners, the viewers to remember, just one thing, and that's you. Disclaimer.
Right.
That's not the most important thing. You're listening, pick what you want. But if Zipporah wanted you to remember one thing, Zipporah, what would that one thing be?
Okay. Had to really think about that one, I must say. Um, I think I read or heard somewhere that any significant religion or spiritual practice had a book. So for Christians, you have the Bible, Muslims have the Quran. I'm sure other religions have, a certain document that people have to refer to. And the person went on to explain that, and so they think that the first commandment or the first rule in life is to be literate, because you have to be able to follow that story to really understand. And I'm not saying that this podcast is only for people who are religious or spiritual, but I think if I have to pick anything from that quote, I think in the same vein, it's an invitation for us to also develop our own book, like something that belongs to us, if you get what I mean, something that we can refer to, like a book that we can say, I have written this for myself. And it doesn't have to take the form of anything that you may have read before, but you can really own it. And as we've gone on to mention, that not everybody will be happy with writing or as in a pen and paper, but take the form that works for you. And I don't think I've met someone who hates journaling. Maybe they're not thrilled about it, but I think that most people would love it because they would actually experience the release that it brings to you. And the fact that it's accessible. I can wake up in the middle of the night and just take my notebook and go write maybe about a dream. I've had a dream journal before,
I've
so
prophecy journal before. It was
okay.
it was well, it wasn't a prophecy journal, it was a part of the book where I tried to remember everything that had been said about me in a religious context. And even some of them are like, oh, I feel like you'll be great in life. And oh, it was such a, I don't know if it was a
Yes,
watershed moment or it was, yeah.
yes,
Yeah. And
yes,
you said something that's
yes.
you.
So yes, I'm thinking about this in the perspective of literacy.
Yeah.
So literacy can be defined in so many different ways. And I'm sure most people listening to us have gone through some kind of school or some kind of training. And there was definitely a book, there was a writing, there was something you had to read. And so in the same vein, getting to know yourself, getting to know your mental health journey, I think that journaling can be one instrumental way to just process your feelings and thoughts. And I'm very glad I was able to share all this with you guys today. Thanks, Fuswa.
You so much for I love the ending and I really appreciate it. I mean, it's also so in sync with what we do at Calm Hearts, Calm Minds. I mean, and at Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, we just want to bring mental health victories. I mean, there are issues, but there are people overcoming, there are people making strides, there are people falling, failing, and picking themselves up. And there are people who are just managing. I mean, and bringing that to light. But I love how you zeroed into self-literacy because no one can know you better than yourself. But if you aren't expressing it, if you aren't writing it, there's a whole new world, there's a whole new journey around that. So thank you so much, Zipporah. I am so delighted you made the time. Thank you everyone for listening to the end. It's been a long one and I'm really, really excited that Zipporah had the time for this. This has been Calm Hearts, Calm Minds. And we do our best to make mental health victories relevant, relatable, and more accessible every day. So thank you so much, Zipporah. See you soon.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you too. Yes. I really
Bye.
enjoyed talking to you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, and Innocent Heart podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and we hope you learned something new. We look forward to you joining the next episode. We can't wait to see you soon. Bye.